from my experience, we put more on ourselves than that's necessary, and we have to be more strategic that less is more. And it's not about working more, it's working smarter, not harder, and not being afraid to ask for help. We have this sense of pride that, we get a badge of honor if we do it all alone. And it's just like we're human beings who thrive in community settings. There's nothing wrong with saying no. There's nothing wrong about asking for help. And there's nothing wrong about removing things that no longer serve you. Like, as an example, do you need to be on 3 boards? Do you need to serve on 4 committees? Are you afraid to tell your colleague to take this project on knowing they have a greater scope? Like, don't be afraid to delegate. Like, as a leader, you have to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and delegate tasks, right? And that has to go with not just your corporate life, but your personal life as well. And rest is important. People think, oh, I'll make up rest later. But if you're not in self-care for your optimum level, don't expect to be able to show up 100%. And showing up 100% will look different for everyone, right? Like, tomorrow, it could be my 100% could be 50%. Tomorrow it could be 25, the day before maybe 5%. As long as you're showing up your best foot forward as you can in that capacity point in time, 1% better compounds over time, right? You don't have to do a lot, right? 1% better each day will compound like the stock market for you, right? And it's just keeping that in mind that you don't have to be superwoman or superman. You can take off your cape. The world isn't going to end. There will always be tomorrow. And in the grand scheme of things, compared to the rest of the world, we are more than privileged. And we have tomorrow to try again and to give yourself grace and don't feel so guilty. Because I feel like we feel guilty sometimes when we feel like we haven't done enough.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Sean Trey Show. I have an awesome guest with me today. Would you like to tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Hi, everyone. Great to meet all of you. My name is Siara Ramos. I am the CEO and founder of A&S Life and Career Coaching. So I am a career strategist for high-achieving women. And I am a project manager for Fortune 500 companies because I disgustingly love to organize chaos. I know that sounds a little crazy.
No.
I just
sounds
do.
Awesome.
I live for it.
Well, how did you get started in that path? Like, I love organizing chaos as well, and that's one of the things I live for. And I live off of checklists and spreadsheets, and that's how I handle things. But how did you get started on that path?
It's actually an interesting story. I'm originally from the Bronx, New York, and I was in college as a psych major. And of course, you got to work, you got to make a living. And I started out being an admin when I moved to upstate New York. And I realized being an administrative assistant, you are organizing chaos. You are the foundation of running the ship for leadership, departments, teams, faculty, you name it. And I fell in love with being the person that creates the plans and brings things to life. If it's a program, a curriculum, an event, is a commencement, it can be anything. And realize everything in life is a project. Everything has a beginning and everything has an end. And someone has to create structure with a smile and bring all these amazing, talented people to bring these things to life. And I just realized as I was getting older and more seasoned in my career, like, I can do this full time. I can make a lot of money being a project manager. Like, it's a career field that's in demand. And from being an admin over the years, I kind of just grew into being this project manager, just leading greater projects and greater teams.
I love that. I had a great teacher early on in my life, who was my martial arts teacher, and it was great. And he was one of the things that I learned studying a lot of different martial arts schools is that there was a lot of chaos because they're like, we've got all these techniques, you got to learn them. And I was like, well, what do I need to learn for this or that? And sometimes people don't know, they're like, well, you just got to study here a long time. My teacher had lists upon lists, and he said, you need to know these techniques. You need to be able to do them. You need to be able to be proficient in them. And it was just so clear. And there was always clear goals. Tonight, we're going to work on this. This is how you do it. Where's your checklist? How many of these arts have you learned? How much have you been practicing? Structure. And then years later.
He had a system. Right? He had a framework.
100%. And I thought it was just like random. But then years later, I, as an adult, met him and I was like, "Hey, you were always my martial arts teacher, but you have a job too, right?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I said, "What do you do?" He's like, "I'm a project manager." And I was like, "Oh, now it all makes sense."
Ta-da!
Yeah,
Ding ding!
right. Now, with you, you work with a high achieving woman who looks successful on paper but feels stuck internally. What's the first disconnect you usually see?
The burnout,
Mm,
the
right?
them doubting their self-worth, like, what's next? Because society tells us, if you get the degrees, you get the house, you get married, you have the children, you climb up the corporate ladder, you make a certain amount, you hit that six-figure mark or whatever this looks like for you, you expect it to feel this sense of completeness and fulfillment. And that's
Yeah.
usually not the case because we spend a lot of our time at work, the majority of our time at work, but that's not our complete identity. That's not who we
Mhm.
are, right? To the core. And I usually tell, my clients, I don't want you to think that your title at work is your main self-identity. Like
Right.
women get lost of usually carrying or holding on to this title that this is who I am instead of forgetting about what makes you happy, right? When I say what makes you happy, meaning what are your pastime hobbies? What are you passionate about? Where do you volunteer? Where do you sit on boards? Where do you sit on committee? What do you do in your free time, right? That it's not doing something for someone else, right? And if you lost your job tomorrow and stripped away your title, who would you be, right? You will still be
Mm,
you, right? And women sometimes think that this is like a sense of armor that we have to wear and this is our main identity. And that's only half of the equation, right?
right.
And realizing that nothing lasts forever, right? Just because it worked for you 5 years ago doesn't mean you want to continue to do it for the next 10 to 15 years. We live in a society now that it's very common for someone to pivot careers over 3 times in their lifetime compared to one traditional role, which was common that you stay with the same job 20, 30 years, you retire, and then it's a happy ending. We live in a society, we have various transferable skills, and we can do a lot of things that can make money. And it's okay to job hop and change your mind and still be you.
Mhm. I love that because I agree. I see so many people that get so caught up in their career, in the titles, in the labels, but at the end of the day, you're not any of those things. You are a force of nature that is moving through this thing called life and dancing
You're a human being.
in
You're a
this
human being first.
100%, and you're dancing in this world, and it's like you gotta figure out your I love Simon Sinek's, start with why, because for me, I think that if you can figure that out, it makes all these other things a lot easier. But you got me thinking, like, and I wanted to ask this: in your experience, like, what keeps capable professionals from making the career move they know they need to make? Because I mean, I've seen so many people that I know that were stuck. Before I started my company, I met with my old boss and I said, "Hey, I just landed a new contract and I'm gonna be stepping away from this job." And he's like, "Many
Da,
people
da,
fail."
da.
Oh, no, he literally looked at me and he's a nice guy, but he looked at me, he's like, "A lot of people fail. You sure you wanna do this?" And I said, "Yeah, because many people
Yes.
succeed. Many people succeed too." And it's like, there's always that little you know?
I'm happy you said that, Sean, because that's one of the reasons people fear. That was judgment.
Mhm,
Most clients that come to me, it's usually the big F first, which is the fear, right? Then
mhm,
the uncertainty, because we can't, we don't have a crystal ball to see how well it's going to turn out. And then from our peers, our friends, our family, our colleagues, our network, the judgment of them not agreeing or them not seeing the vision is really what causes people to halt. Because it's just
mhm,
like if, I read data research and all these people that I look up to and respect and admire don't see the vision, maybe it's not a great idea. So the judgment and fear are usually the two dominant killers in the equation, right? And realizing that failure is a part of the success journey. It doesn't matter how much you plan, it doesn't matter how much you prepare. At the end of the day, it will be messy. You will fail. Some things will not work out as planned, but that's the road to success. The more you fail, the closer you are to success, literally. So there's no avoiding it. I usually tell my clients, like, being uncomfortable with being uncomfortable is a part of the process. No one can avoid that. So you failing is actually an indicator that you're actually trying things to find
yep,
out what works for you. And that's what failure is. It's just testing. You're just testing ideas and concepts to see what works for you to reach those long-term goals that you may have for yourself, right, in the next 2 to 5 years.
yep. if you're not, I there was, I remember that I met this one coach
Oh,
when I was in school, and he was just such a great coach. And I was asking him, what do you think a person can do to become a great basketball player? You know what he said? First of all, step on the court. You step on the
right.
court.
You got to
You
start. You
you
have
got to
to
start.
start. And you're going to suck in the beginning. It doesn't
Yep,
matter what it is.
100%. And 100%. And it's like you have to be like willing to suck in the beginning. My
and
daughter tonight,
look stupid, right? And not care
right?
what people think because you do
Yep,
not get to mastery, right? No one gets to skip the beginner stage of embarrassment, judgment, and then automatically get to mastery, right? It's a
right.
process. You have to
Yep.
do something long enough, right? To be good and to be an expert and for people to appreciate and value it. Like you have to put the reps in. It's like working out for that six
Yes.
pack abs, you know? No one
Yes.
is exempt. You're going to wake up sore. You're going to be extremely in pain, right? You're going to have to change your diet, the way you see things, the way you work out. Like it's like that for everything. It's a principle. And believe it or not, it's all in our
Yeah.
head, Sean. A lot of us
100%.
don't, we think people care more than we think they do. Like you're
All
worried
right.
about how are you going to appear to others when by the next day they have forgotten.
They have forgotten. They aren't even thinking about you. And
No.
not at all. And like the reality is we're all stuck in our heads. My daughter today did something that made me proud of her. She came in here and all day she's been begging me for a t-shirt. And I was like, "What do you want a t-shirt for?" And she's like, "I want to make something." And I was like, "All right." So I got an old t-shirt and it was one I just don't wear anymore. And she pulled out the scissors, and I was like, "Okay, well, it's gonna be that type of party." And so she started cutting it up, and she got to the point where she was like, "Ooh, ooh," and then all of a sudden, my wife and I were, just working on some stuff, and then we turned over, and she was crying, and I said, "Is everything okay?" And she says, "I made a mistake." And I was like, "You know what?" I said, "You know how many podcasts I have now, right? Like, I have a lot of episodes up." And she's like, "Yeah, you do a lot of it. You like it, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she says, "But you don't make mistakes." I said, "Well, if you watch my first episodes, I made a lot of mistakes, like a lot of mistakes." And she says, "Well, what did you do? What did you do when you made that mistake?" I said, "I kept going, just kept going.
Right.
That's all you can do.
Right. That's what you can do. That's what you're supposed
Learn
to do.
and keep going." Yeah.
Failure is experience.
Yes, it is. You help clients, or how do you help clients separate like external expectations from what they actually want in their next careers? Because I mean, we all get a lot of pressure from the outside. You should be doing this, you should be doing this. But, sometimes those shoulds aren't what we really need or is best for us?
Well, I usually make my clients take a Google assessment first before the
Mm,
coaching call. And these are like questions of, it can range from anything like what are their hobbies? Where do they see themselves in 2 to 5 years? How much money they want to make? What are their favorites? What, career achievements or life achievement they're the most proud of? And then when we're on the call, I ask them the simple question. I want you to pretend that you're not thinking about the economy, you're not thinking about your background experience, your work experience, your husband, your children, your hobbies. I don't want you to think of any external barriers of what you don't
mm,
have. I want you to have this abundance mindset, not scarcity. And
yeah.
tell me, if you can build your dream job, what would that look like? And a lot of
Mm,
them, it's hard for them in the beginning because they was like, well, I don't have this, so maybe this. No, no, no. The assignment was I want you to pretend no challenges, no barriers exist. And I
yep.
want you to verbally tell me what would your perfect dream job look like? What would you be doing? What would you be making? What would the hours look like? What would the flexibility look like? How many days a week would you work? Like, I want you to build it with me right now in real time because I need to separate their true desires instead of what they think their
Yeah.
family needs, their husband needs, their kids needs, their friends need, what society thinks what success is. It's me pulling out what do you only want? And now let's figure out what that is and what companies can fit those requirements moving forward.
I love that. You have to have that vision. You have to be willing to say, I want something radically different. And it's okay to want that. It's okay to say, I've been doing A to B over here for 10 years, but really I'd like to be over at, XYZ over here. And people feel fear in that change. Like, Well, I've always been over here.
Terrified.
Yeah, terrifying. And, it's like I'm a blue jeans and t-shirt type of a person, but, the that doesn't mean that you can't wear sweatpants. That doesn't mean you can't wear a suit. Like, just
Right.
because you've been in a certain box doesn't mean that you can't find change and empower yourself to make that change and have fun with it, you know?
Right. We're like onions. We have
Yeah,
so many different gifts, so many different portable skills and layers to
right.
ourselves that you're not defined by one industry or one career, right? We're learning creatures. If you want to pivot and gain new skills and do something new, we're not trees. You're more than welcome to do so. I think it's fear and also not having a concrete strategic plan built that makes us
Mm,
fear because it's just like, okay, I want to go over there, but I'm not sure how to get there. Like, breaking things down for my clients of step A, step one, step two, all in sequence of like, how are you going to get to this destination of this new desire makes it more tangible that they could see it
mhm.
concrete in real time to now be empowered to take the necessary steps to get there.
I love that.
Would they be fearless? No, no one's fearless.
No,
Everyone always has some anticipation, some anxiety, some fear, but it's kind of having the confidence that not that you have it all figured out, but you have the confidence that even though I'm still scared, I'm going to do it afraid and it's going to
feel
be fine.
feel the fear and
That's
do it
it.
anyway. Feel the fear
Do it
and do it
anyway.
anyway. Yep.
Do it
I
anyway.
love that. I love that because it's so true because what was it? The what you truly desire is on the other side of that fear. I always was a no person. I just was the type of guy, and I wasn't actually. No, I wasn't always a no person. When I was younger, I said yes to everything. I said yes to
You
adventure,
a
but
daredevil.
I did everything, man. I was out. It was like my friends were like, "Hey, let's go try this." And I'm like, "Let's do it. Let's jump off this rock into the ocean. Let's go." But then I got to the point of, I don't know, it got into my head, got into this level of stability, and I started saying no. And I started passing up all of these opportunities. And then finally, I said to myself, I'm sick and tired of letting things pass me by. I want to be more proactive and I want to be involved. And I started saying yes to things that came along. And it was amazing the amount of changes that were able to like I was able to create in my life simply by saying, "All right, let's see what comes and let's see how we can step into it." It was amazing.
Yeah, be spontaneous. We
Hmm.
only have one life to live. I think you're so right. I felt like I was a little more daring too in my younger years. You know what it is? Is because as we get older, we have more responsibility and obligations. So, like,
I
our
think so.
decisions are not completely about us. Like, thinking of
Right.
us in our early 20s, we have no real responsibilities. We have nothing to lose.
Right.
We
You're
have
like,
careers, families, reputations, spouses. So, that I think the responsibility aspect is the key reasons why we kind of take some time to process and reflect before we say yes to things.
I love that, and I think it's so true. I think that but the best things can still come from by stepping into that yes. But, you've led and supported virtual, hybrid, and in-person teams. It's interesting to see about the leadership skills that come into play in these diverse teams. Like, what leadership skills are really important now and matter most across all of these environments?
I'm going to be so honest with you.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Being not having an ego,
Mm,
understanding that this is not about you and
love
that
that.
you're the servant leader for these teams. You are here to serve them because they are the experts so they can do their best work. You are there to communicate, you are there to facilitate, you are there to support, guide, coach, mentor. You are there to cheer on and you're there to remove any challenges or barriers they may have, right? I am there to be an orchestra. They are the instrument, right? They are the band. And my job is to take all their skill sets within time, budget, and scope to meet the project goal at hand in
Mm,
with a smile. Because it doesn't matter how amazing this plan that has been created, you still have to have a group of people who all have expectations, egos, and personalities to still get that done. So
yeah,
it's about it's servant leadership. You are here to communicate and serve so they can do their best work.
I love that. One of the things too is, when I did some studying of project management. I loved it, and I took some classes, and one of the things that I loved to think about, the way when I thought started thinking about project managers, is that they were obstacle removers. the people that they're able to see where is that constriction,
The
that
risk.
tightness, that risk, and then how can we make things flow? I think about have you ever seen the pictures of the aqueducts that flow to Rome? Rome needed fresh water, so they built these giant aqueducts from far away to move water into the city. It was a huge city, ancient
Wow.
civilization. But you sit there and
Beautiful.
look at where they brought water from and where they were going to, and it wasn't like one little task. It was this huge project that they had to manage all of these little like very, very intricate pieces. And when they did it, like it was all about removing the obstacles in the way. And it was so beautiful how they did it because it was just organic, natural, but man, relentless at the same time.
Very true. PMs
We,
usually have really big goals, right,
yeah,
to fill, and you wanna make sure that you utilize all your resources, and you want to bring out the best in people. You want them to be able to trust you. You want them to be able to like you. You want them to be able to come excited to bring their best work forward,
right?
and that we can all do it as a team with a smile. Because there will be challenges, but it's how we trust each other to get over those challenges. And as a PM, you don't have to have all the answers, right? You are there with great SMEs, and we're going to work collectively in unison to figure things out and get there.
I love that. Well, one of the challenges too is I hear more and more of my guests talking about people that they meet are dealing with burnout and the challenges of people dealing with burnout. And a lot of times I will meet people and they feel like they're burning out, that they're weak or they've got problems, but they're not identifying the core reasons that they're burned out. And some of it I think is the systems they have in place. They're just doing too much. They're trying too hard to carry all of this on their shoulders. Where do professionals most often burn out? Not because they're weak, but because systems around them are broken. What are the things that are causing all this?
Expectations.
Right.
From my experience, we put more on ourselves than that's necessary, and we have to be more strategic that less is more. And it's not
Mm,
about working more, it's working smarter,
yeah.
smarter, not harder. And not being afraid to ask for help. We have this sense of pride that, we get a badge of honor if we do it all alone. And it's just like
Right.
we're human beings who thrive in community settings. There's nothing wrong with saying no. There's nothing wrong
Right.
about asking for help. And there's nothing wrong about removing things that no longer serve you. Like,
Right.
as an example, do you need to be on 3 boards? Do you need to serve on 4 committees? Are you afraid to tell your colleague to take this project on knowing they have a greater scope? Like, don't be afraid to delegate. Like,
Right.
as a leader, you have to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and delegate task, right? And that has to go
Yeah.
with not just your corporate life, but your personal life as well. And rest is important. People think, oh, I'll make up rest later, but if you're not in self care for your optimum
Right.
level, don't expect to be able to show up 100%. And showing up 100% will look different for everyone, right? Like
Mhm.
tomorrow, it could be my 100% could be 50%. Tomorrow it could be 25, the day before maybe 5%. As long as you're showing up your best foot forward as you can in that capacity point in time, 1% better compounds over time, right? You don't have
Right.
to do a lot, right? 1% better each day will compound like the stock market for you, right? And it's just keeping that in mind that you don't have to be superwoman or superman. You can take off your cape. The world isn't going to end.
Right.
There will always be tomorrow, and in the grand scheme of things, compared to the rest of the world, we are more than privileged. And we have tomorrow to try again and to give yourself grace and don't feel so guilty. Because I
Right.
feel like we feel guilty sometimes when we feel like we haven't done enough.
Right? I know that I got a mountain of work done today with me and my team. It was a
Good.
mountain. We got so much done. But I'm sitting here at the end of the day, things are winding down, and I sit there and go, "Man, I could have gotten more done." But the reality is, it was pretty damn good. And if I didn't get enough done, and what I'm already looking at with my team is that I need new systems. I was looking at how the systems that we had in place for my video production team are not optimal right now. One of the things I have to do is like I'm seeing where we're getting stuck. Like right now, my 2 quality control people are also doing our video downloading and uploading. And because they're doing those double tasks, video downloading and uploading is pulling them away from other stuff. So I was like, well, I need to figure out that. I need to get a dedicated nighttime download and upload person who can just focus on helping download and upload so that my quality control people can crank the quality control up. And then I have to do these other, but my point being, not going to get into the technicalities of that. It was a system that wasn't working. And it wasn't about me not working hard enough or the other people not working hard enough. It's about the things weren't set up correctly in the first place. And actually,
Right.
they were. They were set up when we were in a different time and place. But as we
Right. Your
evolve,
needs change. You
yep,
have
your
grown,
needs change.
that now you
Exactly.
need more technological assistance, like softwares that can cater more to your needs. And maybe
Exactly.
communication styles also need to change, right?
Right?
Cross training is also important. And realize what is priority of what once was a task that we did in the business that's no longer a priority anymore. That maybe it
100%.
can be automated or outsourced virtually, and figure out how I want to use my team's top strengths to focus more on outcomes when it comes to KPIs of if it's landing clients, increasing revenue, decreased in waste, or increased productivity.
I love that. I love that. I'm big on that. I think that you should be you always have to look on an ROI of your time. And if you're not using your time well and you're doing stuff that you could have someone do for a fraction of the cost to help you build and do stuff, focus on that, you know? But, one of the things that I have to sit there and think about that is because it's easy for me to feel overwhelmed. And I know a lot of people feel overwhelmed. Like, I'm juggling a business. I'm trying to keep my wellness in place and eat healthy. I'm trying to be a good dad, a good husband. There's a lot
Husband.
that different people juggle, you know? But when someone is overwhelmed and feels behind all the time, what's the first structural change you help them make? Because I'm sure a lot of people need a lot of changes, you know?
This is gonna sound really simple and cliche, but I'm being so serious with you.
I, I love it.
We start to clean up calendars. There's usually a lot of things on the calendar that doesn't need to happen because it's
Right.
not main priority. Understanding that everyone gets the same 24 hours each day.
Hmm.
So now it's about time management at this point, right? How are we managing our time and thinking about, do I want to give my time to this task or can I give it to someone else? Can I outsource it or can I remove it? And also sleep. You
Hmm.
need to remove
Right.
what's irrelevant and to sleep, because if your body is not in harmony, right? You're not, even if you didn't have much on your calendar and these are core priorities, you're still not going to show up as your best self. So my two best advices would be, we're going to remove what's irrelevant. We're going to focus on what are our top 3 priorities of the day.
Yeah.
We also put space when it comes to like eating lunch, taking actual breaks, and
Right.
sleeping at least minimum 8 hours a day.
I love it.
You can't think you're gonna be superwoman for months on end. It's not sustainable sleeping less than 5 hours. I don't
Yeah.
care how dedicated you are, how great you are, all the things you need to do. If your body's depleted, there's no way that you're gonna focus and function in your optimum level.
100%.
You're gonna need to sleep. My clients don't wanna hear that. "Oh, I have so much to do. I don't have enough time to sleep." Yes, you do, because there's a difference between being busy and productive. And we think being busy all the time is actually being productive. And that's not the case. We got to separate what's you being busy and you actually being productive.
I love that. Right? Because busy and productive are very different things. And I
They
love
are.
they are super different things. And I love that you bring up getting things off of your schedule. I had so many things that I wanted to do and people I wanted to talk to. And, I just had to sit there and go, I looked at my schedule and I was like, well, I'd love to do this type of class. I'd love to learn more of this. I'd like to take this language class. But then I was like, you know what? I love doing my yoga. I take my Muay Thai class. I practice
Really?
singing. Those are good for me. That's good enough.
Oh,
I
you
don't
can
need to do
sing.
guitar. I don't need to take extra languages right now because I'm full. My day is full. And if I want to move into something else, then I need to look at what else I can cut back on. But the reality is I don't have much that I can cut back on right now. So I need to value the time I have, you know? And so I love that because it's about being present in those processes as well.
It is. And realizing you can have it all, just not at the same time. right?
Yep.
Like you said, these other things you want to do. I tell my clients, I was like, listen, you want to write a book, you want to, be on a speaking tour, you want to move up in your career, you want to make $50,000 more your salary. You can have all those things, just not at the same time. Let's
Mhm.
map out those goals within the next 5 years and how each chapter is now a different season for all these big milestones you want to achieve for yourself. So,
I
yes, you
love
can have it all, just not at the same time. And that's
it.
okay.
I love that.
Maybe
It's
learning a second language for you would, or a third, it can be priority next year on your calendar. Doesn't
yes.
mean that it's not going to happen. It's just okay if it's not priority for this year.
I love that. And I think that sometimes we have to look at that. I have different goals that I would love to do, and some of them are gonna be like a different time. But for right now, I'm working on goals that I have for now, and that's a great thing. And I think that it's as long as you can differentiate that. But I mean, I think it comes down to your values. And I'm not talking like the idea of right or wrong, but what's important to you? What is it that you
Oh,
value in
absolutely.
life? If you can
Yes.
figure out your values, it makes all of these decisions a lot easier.
Right. Because you know your why. It's easier to say no because now it's in the forefront of like, yes, I would like this opportunity, but it's not in alignment of what I decided that matching these values for this point in time. Right. And that you stand on principle. Because it's
Mhm.
easy, it's hard sometimes to disappoint people that we care about that want us to do certain things. Right. And time is the only asset that doesn't wait for anyone. It doesn't. No one can buy more time if we like it or not. Right? So it's figuring out I want to be present and this is not priority for me right now. Maybe I'll circle back from the future or I can recommend someone that is a great fit to fulfill this need if it's not me.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's all about finding your why and then putting all the pieces in place. But my question is this though, because it's easy to say to talk about, but when you're overwhelmed and when someone's overwhelmed and feels behind all the time, it can be really hard, And what are some other structural changes that can help them on their way?
I know you said it doesn't matter, people always feel overwhelmed. Everything begins in the mind, Sean.
Mm,
So clients need to understand what is happening in real time that it's making you feel overwhelmed,
mhm,
right? Because all of us have busy lives. But we could have, let's just say you had two twins and both twins, one has anxiety about finding a new job and one doesn't. The only difference is the mindset, right? So it's figuring out why, with all that you're doing right now, you still feel overwhelmed that it's not enough. At this point, it's human psychology that's happening, right? There's some
right.
sense of trauma that hasn't been addressed, that it doesn't matter what you do, you feel overwhelmed regardless if it's a little brownie on your plate or a giant piece of chocolate cake. So at
Right.
that point, it's mental conditioning because it doesn't matter what I give you or what I take away. If you're still anxious about every single decision or thing that you're doing, then there's more that needs to be addressed internally first. Like, why do you feel overwhelmed with what you have? Is this what you want to be doing? What could you outsource? What could you delegate? Do you have to cook today? Do you have to clean your house today? Do you have to go to that networking event?
Mm,
Um, what do you dislike about your job that you don't feel as fulfilled? And what are you so afraid of about trying something new? So it's really trying to dissect why are you overwhelmed with what you have?
interesting. I think that my daughter tonight, circling back to that cutting up the dress, she felt overwhelmed, and I started trying
Because
to
of
think about
expectations. She wanted it to
100%.
be perfect. But the
Exactly.
reality is like perfectionism is just imposter syndrome in a
Yeah,
dress. That's
100%.
it. It's the fact of us wanting perfection that does
Mhm.
not exist, that
Right,
is now creating our own anxiety within our own heads, that we are creating our own cages.
right, and she didn't know how to do it, like, not only was she anxious because she had expectations, but a lack of knowledge, and that's what I said to her because her grandma. My wife is a famous singer, and many years ago,
Wow.
about 5 years ago, my mother-in-law made all of my wife's dresses, and my mother-in-law also made wedding dresses for many years, and I turned to her and I said, "Alani, if you wanna succeed at this, do you know who you might wanna talk to next time?" And she knew. She turned to me and she's like, "I need to ask grandma for help." And I said, "You need to ask grandma for help. She'll be happy to help
Yes.
you, and she will show you how to cut this stuff. She'll show you how to do all of this to do exactly what you wanna do, but you have to ask for help." "Well, she's so busy. I don't know. I'll feel like I'm gonna be embarrassed." And I
The
said,
fear.
"It's the fear. She's gonna feel judged. She's gonna feel like she's not good enough." And I said, "That might be. You might feel afraid. You might feel nervous, but on the other side of that fear is that cool dress that you wanna make, and you're not gonna make it unless you talk to grandma." And I said, "Daddy,
Right.
I support you, but I don't have that knowledge set. I don't have that skill set to help you with that. If I do it, it's gonna look worse than you did. And so, like, let's
I
be
can't
real
either.
right now." And I was like, "You did much better than I would have." And she was laughing at that. But again, it was like, you might have the willingness, the positivity, but sometimes you gotta put all the pieces together. And to me, that's something that's powerful too. Let me ask you
Agreed.
this. As a project manager, what do you see high performers misunderstanding about execution and follow through?
This crazy belief that if you have the perfect plan, that everything works out.
Right.
It doesn't matter how good the plan is. You have to have the people that need buy-in. The
Mm,
people need to buy into the vision. They need to buy into that plan. And they need to
yep.
have the belief that with their skill set and the team, that they can actually get it done. So it's this trust, this faith within each other and themselves that we can make the plan possible that we created together as one team in unison.
I love it.
And understanding that it's human psychology because politics and egos will always be at play. And to understand that keeping it in the forefront, this project is not about me. It is about our stakeholder, it's about our client, it's about the community, it's who are we serving. So keeping the why in the forefront, having them buy into the vision, buy into you that they trust the process, even when it gets hard, so they could do their best work.
You have to have that vision. You have to have um, that why. You have to have the buy-in. I try to get my team on board to do certain things, and there are some interviews that are great. Some interviews are harder that we do, and we edit them. But one of the things that I told my workers and my team is that every conversation has someone that it could help. Every single conversation has someone that could be inspired, that could be seeking hope, that could be seeking something. And I said, if you can start thinking about it that way, that we have to make the best product that we can so that hopefully someone out there is going to watch this and it's going to change their life. I had a student, right? I had a student message me years ago. I used to be a children's teacher for 20 something years. I taught children English.
Wow!
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta
It's
chat offline about that, Sean.
Yeah, and
It's
so when I
amazing.
yeah, it was awesome, but I had one student write me a letter years after I taught her, and she said, "You were fundamentally one of the people that changed my life the most." And she says, "You
Wow,
once said this thing," and I can't even remember saying that, but it was a transformative thing in her life that for me was just the thing that I felt that I needed to say at that moment, and
that's beautiful.
that allowed me telling my team that allowed them to start buying in, and then the biggest mountain can be climbed not easily, but can be climbed.
Right? I agree with you. Like, I started my coaching business during COVID with less than $500 and a laptop at my dining room table.
That's awesome.
You gotta start somewhere.
That's
And you'd
awesome.
be surprised that what you start grows into something that created impact, right? Helping hundreds of women, faculty members, and youth in many different avenues for career readiness. And I think my favorite part as a career strategist that never gets old for me, Sean, is the excitement when we're discussing the offer letter. Because
I
that
love it.
means it's the ending, mission accomplished. They're now in their new roles, or if starting businesses, whatever the case may be. But the offer letter stage is always the most fun for me.
I love that. Well,
We
I
get to
wanted to
celebrate together.
right? Yeah, sometimes you gotta go celebrate and celebrate good, man. And it seems to be like one of the things too that I am fascinated by though is that how people misunderstand execution and follow through. Let's say I say I want to get a new job. You know, that's a great awareness, but then there's the execution, there's the follow through, there's the reaching out, there's the sending out, connections, there's reaching out to your network, there's applying for jobs, so as
Accountability.
a right? As a project manager, what do you see people misunderstanding about that execution and follow through?
Each person is unique, but what I can
Mhm.
say is if you know you need help with the discipline aspect, because it takes 21 days to make a habit. So if you want to be more disciplined, right? It's something that you have to continue to do to train your body to now have this behavior, but use your resources. I said I always tell my clients, as you're doing the coaching with me, I am going to be your cheerleader and your accountability partner, but I also want you to pick two more accountability partners, but it can't be your spouse because they're way too close to you. I need
Mhm.
you to pick a girlfriend, a colleague, someone you trust that can give you some tough love when you need it, because I'm going to hold you accountable and they're going to hold you accountable if you can't show
Mhm.
up for yourself today. You need to build a system, like your own boardroom of people who know about the new goals that you want to reach to help hold you accountable in those days that you are going to be weak. Because every day is going to look different. Some days you're going to be feeling like a rock star, and some days you are not going to roll out of bed.
Right.
But if you have accountability partners to do it with you and hold you accountable with love, with good love, right? You are more likely to be at least over more than 35% more successful of what the studies show if you have an accountability partner in your corner.
I
Because
love
I
that.
tell my clients, I can't want it more than you. I can hold you
Mhm.
as accountable as I can, but you have to want it for yourself just as bad as I want it for you.
Yeah.
Because I'll give you the perfect plan. But if you don't follow with it, then nothing changes, right? And I don't want you
Mhm.
to waste your time, which is your most valuable asset. So it's
Yep.
about, I'm going to hold you accountable and you're going to pick a couple accountability partners to help you along the way.
I love that. Well, I wanna ask you this because the accountability partners got me thinking, and it's like that's one positive step that people can take to realign their career, their path. But, for someone who's listening today, who feels capable but underutilized, they're not where they wanna be. What's one step that they can take this month, today, to realign their careers and their lives?
A brag list.
Mm.
I need you to sit with yourself. I don't care if it's a laptop, pen and paper, notes on your phone, however you see fit. I need you to sit with yourself and write a list of all the things you love to do in your career,
Mhm.
all the things you dislike to do in your career. And then the last one is about your achievements, everything that you
Mm.
accomplished that you are most proud of. Because I want you to see what you love best, right? Because we want to find careers that align with what you enjoy most doing. I want you to be reminded of what you don't like, right? Because
Mhm.
that's what's creating the that you are no longer in alignment, that whatever you were doing is no longer serving you. And then to build your confidence up of how amazing you are is kind of seeing the track record of how far you have come and all that you accomplish and achieve, to build that confidence, to take away that fear and uncertainty and some anxiety that this is what I love to do, so I should be doing more of this, and look what I have already achieved. So why can I not achieve more? I am ready now. Because in reality, no one is going to feel 100% ready. It's about doing it in the now, but
Mm.
building that confidence up. Like, I have already done amazing things. I could go further and I could go the distance. So
I
you
love that.
gotta, I would say self reflection, but it has to be in those three pieces: what you
Mhm.
dislike the most, what you love the most, and also what you have achieved that you are the most proud of, to kind of like bring everything in 360.
And I love that you were just saying, "I've done great things, but I can do even better." It's like that
Yeah,
you've accomplished so much, but you can do even more. You don't have to look at
right,
where you're at as your limit. You can say, "I'm looking at where I'm at. I'm just getting started."
right. And just realizing I've done so much, I am worthy, I am
Mm.
deserving, right? Because I feel like we lose our confidence because we forget all the amazing things we have done. And sometimes we need to be reminded. If someone that, if we don't have the circle to remind us of all the great things that we have done, right?
It's really interesting, but I wanna ask you one last question. If you could go back in time and give your younger self some advice, what advice would you give yourself?
Ooh, it's okay to try different things and make
Mm.
mistakes. Invest early.
Mhm.
Do not be afraid to ask for help and maximize your resources.
I love that.
And you can start with a little or a lot and still get to the same endpoint.
Ooh, I love man, that was some deep wisdom right there. I'm gonna tell my editor, "Tree, turn that into a reel, man. That's amazing right there." Oh, wow. Where can people go to find out more information about you and what you do?
Well, you can visit me on my LinkedIn page. You can follow me. And if you want a free PDF of a 60-day coaching plan to elevate for your next career step, you can just DM me with hashtag coaching plan and I will send that over to you.